It's showtime.
All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, a recent physique update from Samson Dauda ahead of the 2023 Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio. So Samson posted this update, and he has in the caption that this was at 7 weeks out. So that would have been from last weekend, because this weekend would be 6 weeks out. Now, the lineup has certainly changed a little bit since the initial announcement where Samson was the favorite to win based on Olympia placings and Open. Now you've got Nick Walker and Andrew Jacked in the mix. But Samson, I do still think, is one of the favorites to win here, even with Nick Walker in the lineup, because of the fact that I feel like he's still got room to improve a significant amount from how he looked at the Olympia. I think he can improve his conditioning and that sharpness, that crispness, a lot from where he was at the Olympia, whereas Nick Walker, I think, was top 3 at the Olympia because he was pretty much 100% on. Nick was as good as I've seen him. But what makes Samson so dangerous, I think, is that he has room to come in a lot better than the Olympia, whereas Nick could come in a little bit better, but I don't think it would be significantly better. But for a guy as tall and as heavy and as big as Samson, I think there's a lot of variables that could be tweaked in a minor way to have a major change when it comes to his conditioning at the Arnold. So I'm still really excited to see what he's able to bring. I've always been a fan of his structure. It's one of the things that I think is his strongest points. I've always said the impressive thing about him is, as heavy as he is and the size that he's put on in really quite a short amount of time, his waist has pretty much always stayed the same. He's never sacrificed his V-taper. He's always kept the midsection tight. And he's been able to do that while adding a pretty significant amount of size since the last time we saw him at the Arnold Classic. And he's so much different from the other guys. I mean, if you were to argue Nick or Shaun Clarida or Bonak as a favorite to win, Samson just has such a different physique from those guys. And it would be an interesting comparison with Andrew Jacked, who took 8th at the Olympia, so he was 2 placings behind Samson, but he was a place ahead of Bonak, so I guess he's more in the conversation than Bonak would be if you're going off Olympia placings. But I am very excited for this Arnold Classic, and another guy that we still want to see jump in, Derek Lunsford. Now, I thought this was interesting that Derek posted an update extremely similar to the updates that we were seeing from Nick right before Nick announced that he was doing it. It's kind of a quarter-turn side shot. And Nick was posting these up like right before the Arnold, just posting these post-Olympia updates. I was actually reading the comments on this particular post, and it seems like everybody in the comments is talking about him doing the Arnold. They really want to see that rematch of him versus Nick, 2 and 3 at the Olympia. Now, I've already said before that I don't think that this version of the Olympia list is the final version of the list. I think there will be more names added, and I think the names added will be very, very good, very, very big names. But the question still remains, will Derek be one of them? Like I said, he has said multiple times in interviews that he wants to do the Arnold. He's interested in competing, but him and his coach, Hani Rambod, think it would get in the way of his Olympia prep. Now, I've also heard that Hani told him that he can do whatever he wants to do. It's up to him. But I personally still think it would be a huge mistake for him not to do the show. $300,000. The lineup is shaping up to be an actually pretty impressive one from one that people considered weak just a few weeks ago. I mean, now that Andrew Jacked is in it, now that Patrick Moore is in it, that opens up a whole other storyline talking about these taller, aesthetic, open guys, Patrick, Andrew, and Samson. If Derek were in it, you would have like all the best tall, open bodybuilders against like all the best short bodybuilders, because you've got the 212 champs, Clarida and Kamal, and then Derek is also a former 212 champ. Nick Walker and Bonak. Bonak also came from 212, 2 of the shorter men's open guys. And then Samson, Patrick, and Andrew representing the taller, more aesthetic guys. It really is going to be an interesting Arnold Classic. And I honestly think Derek would be insane not to do it. Now, next up in the news, I saw this on Regan Grimes' page. I had to talk about it, and I saw your comment, Hani. Very funny. The caption of this, Phil Heath is looking huge, coming for that 300K. Great hitting some chest and shoulders. Looking forward to seeing you all at the LA Fit Expo tomorrow. Then Hani said, you're giving Nick Power Guy content. And when I met Hani at last year's Arnold Classic, he kept calling me Nick Power Guy like the entire weekend when we were hanging out. It was very fun. But no, Regan is clearly joking here. Phil is not doing the Arnold Classic. We're just 6 weeks away now. And while Phil looks really impressive here, he still looks pretty big for a guy that hasn't competed in as long as he's been out. But clearly, he doesn't look like he's 6 weeks out from a competition. But I am still convinced that we're going to see Phil on a bodybuilding stage in the next year or so. But no, it will not be the Arnold Classic Ohio. He just does not have enough time for that. I can pretty much confirm you're not going to see him on stage at the Arnold. At least not this year, as fun as that would be to see, because again, I think it would be a great closing to his career. It's one of the only shows, it might have been the last time, that Kai Green beat Phil Heath in a competition, was the 2010 Arnold Classic. It's a major title that Phil competed for, one of the only major titles that Phil competed for that he has not won and did not win. If he is going to end his career with 7 Sandows, he's the only man tied with Arnold Schwarzenegger for that title, winning Arnold's show, one of the shows, actually, that 2010 was before Phil ever won the Olympia. So it was before his Olympia reign to win an Arnold title after his Olympia reign. I still think that would be a really nice close to his career if he is planning on competing again, which I do have a strong feeling he is, and which I have heard from a couple different people that he is definitely interested in still competing. I really think the Arnold would be a great cap to his career if he were to win that show. And I think, again, I really think he's got a much greater probability of winning the Arnold than winning an 8th Olympia title, again, as much as I would like to see him do that. Now, next up in the news, let's talk about this Chris Bumstead interview on the Olympia TV YouTube channel where he references open bodybuilding. There's been this constant discussion surrounding Chris Bumstead. Constantly, he's asked this in interviews. Will Chris Bumstead ever compete in an open bodybuilding competition? Not switch to open. Will he try it? If he did try it, would he do well? Well, he pretty directly answers that question. A little bit more specifically than he did in the week of the Olympia. He was asked in an interview backstage at the Olympia by, I believe it was Flex Wheeler, if he had any interest in pursuing open bodybuilding. And he kind of had the same response here, that he's not interested in pushing his body any further than he's pushing it in Classic. He said from a size standpoint, he's already pushing it hard enough to stay big enough in Classic. But he says, I will never push my body to chase the Mr. Olympia in open. I may step on stage for fun at the open, but it won't be at the Olympia. It would be like 4 weeks after the Olympia. You put on 20 pounds and you're full and not quite as dry. I'll try it maybe one day. So he does end that quote with, I'll try it maybe one day. Now this, I think, is the correct approach, because obviously Chris is best suited for Classic. That's why he keeps winning the Classic Physique Olympia, because his physique and his structure are perfectly suited. He is the Classic physique standard. This is what they want a Classic bodybuilder to look like. That's why he is who he is in that division. But I do think it's like Shaun Clarida. I like to see Shaun compete in open shows because he's got such a different physique from the standard open bodybuilder, and he does well. He can win open shows. He can beat guys that are 100 pounds heavier than him, and that is fun to watch. It's the same story with Chris. I think he's best in Classic, but he's got such a different physique from what you typically see in open bodybuilding, but he's got a lot of the same strong points. He's very balanced. His conditioning is very good. He's got a reasonable amount of size to compete with some of the bigger guys in open, even if he stayed the same Classic weight but a little bit fuller. Not trying to grow into an open show, I think, is the right approach. I think when people say they want to see Chris do an open show, they don't want to see Chris as an open bodybuilder. I think what people want to see is Chris, Classic physique, Mr. Olympia physique, like the same physique, just put that in an open lineup and see how that does. I don't think anybody is saying they want to see Chris put on 20, 30, 40 pounds of muscle, switch to men's open bodybuilding, stay in men's open bodybuilding, and try to compete as a bigger bodybuilder. I don't think that's what people want to see. Now, Chris also went on to say in this interview that if the Arnold was like 3 or 4 weeks after the Olympia, I would do that. Now, obviously, that's not on the table because the Arnold, Ohio has never been nor will ever be 3 to 4 weeks after the Olympia. It will always be in March, and the Olympia will always be towards the end of the year, which will always be at least 2 months away from the Arnold Classic. And I think this year it's going to be 3 or 4 months away from the Arnold Classic. I think the Olympia right now is scheduled for November. Chris also says it's definitely a lot, and I've gotten a lot better, I think, at mitigating that pressure. I don't think I'm going for 8 or 9 or 10 for sure, but it's fun managing it, and it creates a lot of greater experiences. And he says he's not worried about the money at all. He's never competed for the money, which Chris is like one of these guys that his following and his name has gotten so big. The prize money in Classic Physique, $50,000 to win the Classic Physique Olympia, realistically is nothing for him. I would bet that Chris makes significantly north of $50,000 in a month. But I think this is really the right move for Chris's career. In classic physique is where he's really going to make his legacy. He's going to win however many titles he really wants to win, realistically. He won this past year's Olympia with a torn bicep, and I think he won it still pretty handily. And he also talks about the fact that he only worked with Hani Rambod for this Olympia for just a couple months. Now he has a full year to work with Hani for the next Olympia, and imagine what they're going to be able to do at that time. And anyway, I don't see Chris winning an open Olympia if he were to try to do it. But I can see Chris winning a relatively big show in open bodybuilding if he wanted to. Like the Arnold, for example, but apparently that's not close enough to the Olympia in proximity. However, there is the Arnold Classic UK, which is a lot closer. The Arnold UK is supposedly going to be the end of September again. And the Olympia, what I'm hearing, is the first week of November. That's a month in between. Maybe 5 weeks. But then that brings me to another conversation with Shaun Clarida. We just talked about that kind of briefly. Shaun Clarida obviously is doing the Open Arnold Classic. His coach Matt Jansen posted this and said, y'all keep leaving Shaun Clarida out of these title conversations. It's the best possible thing you could do for him. The guy is at his best when he's counted out, so thank you. And look, I like Shaun Clarida's physique a lot. I like seeing him win open shows because it's a guy like him that is so consistent with his conditioning that he catches these much bigger guys when they're slipping. And he's also very complete. He's very well proportioned. Some people have drawn this comparison to him being like a mini Ronnie Coleman. But it's that word mini. And that's why I think he's a good comparison to Chris Bumstead, because I think while he can be successful in open shows, Shaun Clarida really is meant for the 212 division because he really is limited by his height. He really is limited by his frame. And even though we're seeing a lot of shorter guys be much more successful in men's open bodybuilding, I think if the 212 division exists for anybody, it exists for somebody like Shaun Clarida. I don't know if it's physically possible for Shaun to be ripped and over 200 pounds on stage because of his height, because of his frame. Now, does Shaun Clarida have a shot at winning the Arnold, Ohio? I'm going to say that he does. Do I think he's going to win the Arnold Classic Ohio? I don't. And granted, Shaun's motto is the giant killer. He's constantly hashtagging bigger is not better, which is a quote from Arnold from actually the interview that I did with Arnold right after the Olympia. Arnold said those words exactly in reference to men's open bodybuilding. But if that is really true, again, you've got to ask the question, what purpose does the 212 division serve? If a 212 guy can win a major men's open show with a limited frame, limited in weight, they're not able to be a 300-pound mass monster, but with good conditioning, pretty balanced physique, they can win open shows. Hadi Chupin, a former 212 guy, just won the Open Olympia. Derek Lunsford, a former 212 Olympian, Mr. Olympia champion in 212, was just runner-up. William Bonac has been a top 3 Olympian in open bodybuilding. Shaun Clarida has won open shows. Nick Walker didn't come from 212, but he's limited in height. So that's the question that I really want to leave you guys with at the end of this video. If Shaun Clarida were to win an open lineup, like the Arnold Classic Ohio, with some of the best open guys there are, Nick Walker, Samson Dauda, William Bonac, you got Justin Rodriguez, Akeem Williams, these really big guys, Andrew Jack, these really tall guys. If he really were to win an open lineup that good, then the question is, what purpose is the 212 division serving if these 212 guys are that good in open lineups? And keep in mind, that's kind of why the Arnold Classic got rid of 212 in the first place, because those guys are more than welcome to compete in open. It is an invitational show after all. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. All that good stuff helps out a lot. As always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.